Today's spoiler-free anime review is Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, an anime revolving around high-stakes illegal gambling. I watched Kaiji because I was in the mood for a thrilling experience with strategic and psychological battles, but without action. Basically speaking, I wanted Death Note, but I didn't want to rewatch Death Note for the 5th time. The story follows Kaiji, an out-of-work young adult turned low-class grifter who spends his time gambling on card games and vandalizing property. In episode 1, he's blindsided by a gangster who's come to collect the high-interest gambling debts owed by his friend who's now gone missing. Obligated with repayment upon threat of getting his family involved, Kaiji accepts the offer. The only problem here is that it would take him over a decade to repay it, assuming he had a job. His only option is to accept the gangster's offer and join an illegal gambling event, risking further debt on a much higher scale. I don't use the term high stakes lightly. Characters involved in these games not only risk an exorbitant amount of money, but also their life, health, freedom, and more. I've seen some criticize Kaiji for characters having irrational decision-making and how no normal person would think this way. I suppose on some level they are correct. However, Kaiji isn't about normal people. It's an anime about gambling addicts. I feel that the creators had at least a decent understanding of gambling psychology. Not that I'm an expert on the matter, but I can't count the times that I've watched a stock ticker for some company that I've never heard of bonk off into oblivion, taking a portion of my money along with it. Hell, I've exhibited similar behavior to these characters while live streaming myself play the casino side quest in Echo Knight. Amazing game, by the way. The characters in Kaiji aren't so lucky as to invest their money simply because they like the stock. There's an opposing force at play which takes the form of gangsters and swindlers who hope to manipulate the weak around every corner. It doesn't take long for the bets to become astronomical because many of these characters are financially cornered by previous debts they were also pressured into. One thing I appreciated about the plot was Kaiji's ability to lose. How many anime have you seen where the protagonist is forbidden to fail, or if they do fail, it's still treated like a victory? This doesn't happen here. Kaiji experiences both exuberating victories as well as hitting rock bottom and then finding a way to lose more. The types of games featured in the series are mostly original, or something that we're familiar with, but with a twist. For example, the first game combines paper, rock, scissors, and card games. This makes it interesting for the viewer because not only are they being exposed to the rules of a new game, but they're also left wondering about the various ways players can cheat. Cheating is actually a common occurrence here, but it doesn't work how you would expect. In real life, you can expose the cheat and win by default, but in Kaiji, you'd have to prove how someone is cheating and then hope that the audience has your back. This is easier said than done when considering that your audience is gangsters who are on the payroll of your opponent. Sometimes the best strategy to beat a cheater is not to expose them, but to cheat better. This brings us to the multi-tiered psychological battles that occur mid-game. Here our contestants analyze plays, body language, expressions, and their opponent's history in order to devise a sufficient strategy. Characters are also under an insurmountable amount of stress, so mistakes are also common. In terms of plot progression and character development, Kaiji is adequate. We're given just as much characterization as we need for every relevant character. The story also wraps itself up nicely with great pacing bar one arc. I would also like to see a 3rd season, but the conclusion of the 2nd season still feels like a complete experience, although you can still read the manga to delve further into the plot and see what happens next. Regarding my previous criticism, the only substantial issue I have with Kaiji is the narration within the first arc. It's a bit too heavy-handed for me because I felt that it over-explains things. However, that's only 8 episodes, and even then, I could probably trim it down to 6 or 7, so it's not like it's that much time wasted on narration. Furthermore, this is actually one of my most controversial opinions about anime in general, so feel free to take that with a grain of salt. If you do happen to agree with me on this matter, then rest assured because I did not experience this problem anymore beyond episode 10. Overall, I give Kaiji a score of 8.5 out of 10. In terms of excitement alone, this could easily be a 9 or 9.5 if we had just one more season, despite the fact that the anime is still a complete experience. I recommend Kaiji if you like gambling or just want an intense anime that will be hard to put down. Thank you for watching. Share this video with someone who might be interested so that they can experience Kaiji without being spoiled. I'll see you next time with my review of Romeo's Blue Sky.